Yes, it's our fated day. If you haven't been around in fighting games, you may not know, but every 10 minutes, people argue about 2 out of 3 versus 3 out of 5. I think, to start with, we should not argue about this anymore. I think both sides should elect one member and they should do trial by combat, and whoever doesn't get killed, their team wins. But it's not up to me, so let's just get this all out on the table right now so we don't have to do it again. Every time a new fighting game comes out, someone posts a video. And the video is like a character dying in 2 hits to a character with full resources or something. And then someone goes, I don't know, guys, looking kind of 3 out of 5, am I right? And then they farm Twitter engagements, right? Because as you guys know in fighting games, it's very normal if you have full resources to kill someone in like 2 hits. I can't really think of that many games where that doesn't happen. Pretty normal stuff. And it starts up a whole discussion and debate about a game coming out and whether the game should be 2 out of 3 or 3 out of 5. People who want 3 out of 5, they want more games. The arguments that people say are that 2 out of 3 has more variance and 3 out of 5 has less, and the more skilled player will normally win. The better player will win more. Now, why is it that the more skilled player wins in the 3 out of 5 and not the 2 out of 3? And why is it not that a 4 out of 7 or a 5 out of 9, or like as you increase games to try to reduce variance, there has to be a point where the games are too much and other factors can kick in, right? People don't win tournaments because they're the best players. Being the best player is a big factor, but obviously tournaments are just your seeding. Did you sleep? Did you eat? Like what your path is like, what the matchups for your character are like. There's lots of different factors that kick in for both shorter sets and longer sets for which is better, which is worse. The point of tournaments is to see who's going to win the tournament for that day with whatever the rule set is, whether it's 2 out of 3, 3 out of 5, single elim, double elim, how the seating is, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, that's another thing. If you're winning in first to 2, are you just not the better player? It's first to 2, your opponent prepared for first to 2 and then won the first to 2 set, and you're the better player? Why? You're telling me this winner's a loser? It's a little hard to be like on your side when you put it that way. Shorter sets and longer sets have different skill sets that are valuable in each, right? Shorter sets favor more aggressive, explosive decision-making in players, and they prey off your nerves maybe a bit more. Longer sets like stability and things that are generally harder to deal with when you get grinded down each game. Winning matchups that are like hard for your character in a longer set is generally going to be harder. That will probably make it so that characters with better matchup spreads are going to be better. But the thing is in fighting games is that, there's every way to play the game. You can play the games extremely explosive. You can play them slow, you can play them fast, you can play them gimmicky and weird and tricky and strange. You can play them in lots of different ways. The primary reason that people always talk about the game being 2 out of 3 instead of 3 out of 5 is time. That's like the biggest factor. It's like, look, sure, if we could make the game as stable as possible, then every tournament would be like round robin, group stage situation, a bracket where you're playing every single person in your pool, you get to play against all of them, and then use that to determine seeding, and then you go into another stage of the bracket. Like, you would break things down and really kind of have the whole field play each other and get an accurate representation of where all the skill levels of every player is after everybody plays, and like all this kind of stuff. When our tournaments are running open bracket events with thousands and thousands of people attending, you have to make logistic decisions around how to get that many people to play through a bracket format and achieve a winner from Friday to Sunday. If you make it first to 2, it runs faster than first to 3, naturally, right? That's how it works. And every part of the tournament will be longer if it's first to 3. And that means less matches on stream because each set takes longer, so you can have less total sets. It means pools are going to probably take longer and have to be scheduled in a certain way. If you lose in winners, you'll probably have to wait longer to play. You have to have more time scheduled out for top 8s, which means maybe less of semis and other stuff that you have to schedule for, right? There's like lots of scheduling conflict. So the general problem that we have is primarily a logistical concern. How do we get there in the middle in the most suitable way possible that's good for everybody? I mean, yeah, that's another problem too. We used to run 8 a.m. pools because, you start at 8 a.m., you have one extra set of pools, right? And then people complain about 8 a.m. pools. So they cut out 8 a.m. pools. The tournament has to go faster to make up for that. And you have to run things in a different way, which means more time on 2 out of 3 versus 3 out of 5 could be big. There's a lot of things like this, right? Is asking too much for people who are commentators like Sajam who have tournaments to make them double the work? It's true. I don't get paid by the hour. I get a day rate. So if the top 8 lasts an hour, or last 4 hours, I'm making the same amount of money. Make that shit first to 1 single all-in. You feel me? No, I'm just kidding. I don't really care. Whatever is the best for everybody is cool with me. I commentated Dragon Ball at Evo, and watched 58 Bardock level 3s in one top 8 or something. You can't break me. I'll be fine in terms of commentary stuff. And someone as a player, I played it in a major and I was down 0-2 and I won the match 3-2 and then made top 8 winners at that major. This truly has happened to me before. I didn't think to myself, man, the better player won because it was first to 3. I thought, boy, I got so lucky. That was a little spooky. And both sides make sense, right? It makes sense to run first to 2 logistically. The amount of times where 3 out of 5s matters dramatically is not huge, although it does matter. It can end up being a factor. A lot of people will start by saying this game should just be 3 out of 5. If you don't think it needs to be 3 out of 5, you're a stinky poo-poo man and you don't know what you're talking about, right? Like that's how these people talk to each other on the internet. If the game starts at 3 out of 5, in the beginning, they're usually the most explosive because offense develops faster. And then the game slows down dramatically because defense becomes better. Going from 3 out of 5 and then going back to 2 out of 3 is not going to happen. Who's going to be like, you know what, guys? It's kind of taken a while. Let's just go back to 2 out of 3. Doesn't everybody want to play less games now? Let's all be adults here and just recognize the game. In the beginning, it was pretty fast, but now things take a little longer. So, we had a 5-hour MK top 8. Maybe we should scale it back a bit. Don't you guys think that we should just go back from first to 3? And everybody's like, true, I love playing less games now that I'm used to playing more games. Respectfully, I'm seeing the logistics of this event. Let's go backwards and play 2 out of 3. Never happens. It's not going to be a thing. If you start the game at 2 out of 3 and the game is fast and the time that it takes to run at 2 out of 3 versus 3 out of 5 is comparable enough to other games that you can confidently run a 3 out of 5 and know that it's not going to take so much additional time that it impacts the tournament in a super devastating way, then you're like, all right, cool, we can run 3 out of 5. And that's the real thing here. Tournaments have to balance time for all of these different games, right? In particular, with a new game coming out, Street Fighter 6, how many people do you think are going to sign up for these tournaments? You remember how many people signed up for Strive when Strive came out, right? It was an army. How many people do you think are going to sign up for Street Fighter 6? A bigger IP and a bigger game. I don't know if people realize just how absurdly large these tournaments are going to be when the game first starts. And the difference in first to 2 and first to 3 when there's 2, 3, 4, 5,000 entrants, these big first couple of tournaments, it's going to be it might drag a bit. We find ourselves in this scenario every time a new game's coming out, people arguing about this. And the reality is you just have to see. You have to wait for the game to come out. You got to try 2 out of 3, you got to try 3 out of 5, and then make some adjustments from there. You're not going to know until you're running tournaments for this game consistently and you see how it shapes up and you see what the timetable is like. The bigger topic and the more important thing is actually something that Brian talked about, which is everybody's a grumpy crybaby bitch. He said that, but in a nicer way. I really hate the super angry, dismissive attitude people take when players advocate for change, right? There needs to be pushback to change. A lot of organizers sound like they hate the community they're a part of and it's ugly. Lots of frustration bubbling up. Yeah, there's a lot of people who get real snappy when you talk about 2 out of 3 or 3 out of 5, right? Twitter and Vice is kind of venting, so I blame the platform mostly. But man, if you're a local TO and you vent hard about these kinds of frustrations and it gets retweeted beyond your intended audience, it's a really bad look. I think this is a problem for both players being too grumpy and also the people they're conversing with, TOs and other people who are making logistical decisions. Everybody's just gotta calm down, okay? Because at the end of the day, you're in the same space and you're both trying to do the same thing. Make the best environment for all the other players so everybody's paying money to go out to tournaments, has a nice time. And TOs are trying to make the best tournament experience they can for players and viewers and their staff and logistically make it all make the most sense. If you're like, this is why I think 3 out of 5 would be great and like this is what I think should change about it and this is what we got to do. I don't think anybody is going to take you and be like, this guy sucks. They're going to be like, all right, these are reasonable points. If you're like, these fucking morons still think that 2 out of 3 is acceptable in this age, I'm paying money to be here. And these fucking idiots, like no one's gonna take you serious. You ruin anybody's like chances of thinking that what you're saying is gonna make any sense. You gotta be like, hey, I understand logistically, time, all these other problems, 2 out of 3 would be good. Let's give them both a try. Let's try 2 out of 3, let's try 3 out of 5,
Sajam,
and like,
yes.
Let's see which we can make happen, okay? We all gotta work together to make the best possible scenario here. And if you just come at it from a aggressively screaming standpoint, no one's gonna listen to you. This sounds boring. Can we go back to elected members trial by combat? You might be onto something. It's okay to do different events. Like some events can be group stages, round robin. Some events can be open bracket tournament with thousands and thousands of players that run first to two. Like we have to understand that different events serve different purposes, and you're allowed to go to whatever one you want to go to. Because at the end of the day, what are you gonna do? You're gonna fucking stab a TO in the neck and then be like, I'm the TO now, and then run that shit first to three? Like, no, bro. This is what's gonna happen. You're gonna tweet all these angry things at the TO, and then the TO is gonna get the event to be like a pro tour event or whatever. Then you're gonna have to go to their tournament anyway. And then when you're at the tournament, you're gonna see them, and you're gonna give each other that look in the hallway of like, I was real mean to you on Twitter, and you were real mean to me on Twitter, and now we gotta walk by each other in person. Because realistically, I don't think anybody is like, dude, it's impossible. We can never make this game first to three. Like, lots of games that have been first to two have become first to three. I don't know if you guys know, but Marvel 3, they like ran it at Evo, and like 8 a.m. pools were first to two, and then it ran so fast that after they ran one round of pools, they made the rest of the bracket first to three. Now people try and like collect data and see what's reasonable, and then be like, okay, this game fast enough or slow enough? Like, what are we doing here? Once the game's out for a month or so, people will have a better idea. I mean, because Evo, they haven't said, I think, whether bracket's gonna be, right? I'm sure this is gonna sound like insane. You guys are not gonna believe the shit I'm about to say out of my mouth. I'm sure Evo's sitting there like, we should see if the game runs fast or slow, and then make an informed decision once we have data about how quick or slow the game is, and whether 2 out of 3 or 3 out of 5 is good or not. An absurd thing. Can't believe that they would do something like that. Luckily, they're not first, so they get to, you know, like CEO's fucked. Like, you guys got to decide in 3 weeks or whatever, right? But Evo just gets to sit there and be like, what's the data looking like? Can we support this and run this? All right, cool. That's as complex as the issue is. We've done this for every other game. It's going to be okay. Just wait a minute. And stop being so mean to each other. You're all so mean to each other on Twitter. You're all just like saying the same shit, and none of it matters, truly. All these mean tweets about 2 out of 3 and 3 out of 5 are inconsequential. You know, when the game comes out, we'll make our decision. It's part of why I don't really tweet to discuss things like this at all anymore. I'm sure you guys have probably noticed. Almost everything I just take to the stream. On here, it's much more reasonable to like have a discussion, because you can write a tweet every 5 seconds in my chat, basically, right? Like, and we can just discuss it on here and not be mean to each other. And it's way easier. Everybody calm down. You're all in it for the same reason, you know, to fucking get that milli. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to win that milli, motherfuckers. Listen. My favorite part about this is the people who are like, let's keep it first to two, but make it 3 rounds. I'm like, listen, Manon players, shut up, dude. I'm not trying to hear this nonsense about you guys trying to keep your medals, because that shit carries between rounds. I simply will not allow this. Manon players cannot win, bro. Yeah, Kimberly too. Kimberly gets level 3 on you in round 2 or some shit. Now she has 3 straight rounds of having the buff. You want to go play Tekken, go play Tekken.